Now with this one, we going all the way to Chicago with a Chirac. You feel me? Shout out the whole Chirac. I fuck with the whole Chirac, man. The whole Chicago movement, whether it's the music scene, the movie scene, all that shit. I fuck with it, man. Y'all might remember this picture from that Tupac interview, man. This cat, Robbie Yummy Sandifer, was a real interesting story to me. You know, I always be on the tube and shit, and I had stumbled across this a while ago, but do a little story on him, you know. Robert Sandifer, born March 12, 1983, died September 1st, 1994. Also known as Yummy, was an 11-year-old boy from Chicago, Illinois. His murder by fellow gang members is what garnered national attention because of his age, resulting in his appearance on the cover of Time magazine in September 1994. His nickname originates from the love of cookies, standing 137 centimeters, 4'6". Sandifer was a young member of the Chicago street gang, the Black Disciples, aka the BDs, man. Shout out to all the BDs, man. I'm neutral, you feel me? I don't even bang or none of that. Where I'm from, we don't do none of that, so just keep it classy. Like I said, y'all might remember this picture from the famous Tupac interview, you know? Let me read a little bit more. After committing murder, arson, and armed robbery, he was murdered by his fellow gang members who feared he could become an informant and that he was attracting too much attention towards their activities. Coverage of Sandifer's death and retrospectives of his short, violent life were widely published in the American media. Sandifer became a symbol of the gang problem in American inner cities, the failure of social safety nets, and the shortcomings of juvenile justice systems. Alright, so I ain't gonna even lie. You know, this story get a little deep because it's a kid, you know. Rest in peace to this guy. He was a kid when he passed, you know. But he had a real interesting story. You know, Chicago is one of those places, you know, it's all these type of places all over the USA, but I feel like Chicago like really one of the most, like Chicago, Detroit, LA, New York, shit like that. You know, it be going on in the inner cities, you feel me? But back to it, let's see what his early life was about. Robert Sandifer was born in Chicago, Illinois, March 12th, 1983. Sandifer's mother, Lorena Sandifer, had over 30 arrests while prostituting, many of which were drug-related. Sandifer's father, Robert Atkins, was absent throughout Sandifer's life due to incarceration for a felony gun charge. Sandifer was physically abused from the time he was an infant, so he had a rough upbringing, you know. I know a couple cats who was living like that too. You feel me? Brought up like that. You know, it's sad, but you know, we're gonna keep on pushing. Back to the story. Before he was 3 years old, Sandifer was already known to the Department of Children and Family Services. Physically, examination showed that Sandifer was alleged to have had cigarette burns on his arm and neck, as well as linear bruising consistent with physical beatings. Lorena initially blamed the abuse on Sandifer's father, although she later recanted. Man, that's crazy, man. In 1987, Sandifer and his siblings were removed from his mother's home by DCFS and were sent to live with their grandmother in the Roseland neighborhood of Chicago. I heard about that. I heard this gully over there get crucial, man. Get real gangsta out that way, man. You feel me? His grandmother's residence contained as many as 19 children on some occasions by most accounts. His grandmother's home was not much better than Sandifer's previous home. Shout out Big Mama for taking everybody in, man. It's like that some places. Hey, sometimes all we got is Big Mama in the black community. Shout out Big Mama, though. Sandifer, by the age of 8, quit attending school and began to roam the streets, stealing cars and breaking into houses. At the age of 10, Sandifer was arrested on charges of armed robbery. A psychological examiner at the time reported that Robert is a child growing up without any encouragement and support, and that he has a sense of failure that has infiltrated almost every aspect of his inner self. Yeah, man, it's sad. That's how it is. So, like the youth in the inner city, man, we got to start stepping up as black brothers. You feel me? We got to step up, man. You feel me? I ain't trying to glorify none of this stuff. If y'all watching this channel, I ain't glorifying none. It's just that I like interesting stories. It's just something I've always been into my whole life. You feel me? In 1993, Sandifer and his siblings were removed from his grandmother's home and were sent to Lawrence Hall DCFS shelter on Chicago's north side, from which Sandifer ran away and never returned. I don't blame you, little man. Feel me? From 1993 until his death, Sandifer's whereabouts and living arrangements remain unclear, although he continued to be arrested by the authorities. Man, okay, I guess it's gonna talk about what led up to him going on a run and his fellow gang members, taking his life. Murder of Siobhan Dean. On August 28, 1994, Sandifer was ordered to do a favor for his gang. He opened fire several times with a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, striking several youths. Sandifer quickly fled the scene. Among his victims was a 14-year-old girl, Siobhan Dean, who was fatally hit by a stray bullet. Rest in peace to this young lady. Like I said, and, I'm not here to glorify none of this type of stuff, honestly. And it's a sad story, because two children lost their lives, in the same time. Like I said, rest in peace to Lil Yummy too at that. Go a little further too. Let's see. See his death. Let's talk about his death a little bit. Okay, let's get to it. After the shooting, the police were looking for Sandifer, who was hiding with gang members in the neighborhood. On August 31st, while standing on a neighbor's porch after asking to call his grandmother, Sandifer was met by brothers Craig and Derek Hardaway. I read their story too. I mean, I watched it on YouTube. It was deep, man. It's deep, man. That gang lifestyle ain't no joke, man. I ain't gonna even lie. You feel me? Like I said, where I'm from, we don't really do the gang thing, It's really about money, It's about money everywhere. I'm pretty sure it's about money out in Chicago too, because I be watching a lot of stuff too, I like the one cat story, Fluky Stokes. He is deep, you feel me? We probably do something on him a little bit later on. But back into this. On August 31st, while standing on a neighbor's porch after asking to call his grandmother, Sandifer was met by brothers Craig and Derek Hardaway, ages 16 and 14, who were both members of the Black Disciples street gang. Sandifer was told he was being taken to a safe location out of town and ordered into a waiting car. See, he was so young, he couldn't understand. He probably couldn't even catch the play, you know what I mean? Because he was so young, thinking these his people, ain't nothing going to happen to him. He didn't put a little work in. But that ain't the case, you feel me? They already had suspicion that he was probably going to run his mouth. He a kid, what a kid going to do? You give a kid a gun and tell him to go do something, he going to do it, especially if you got a lot of influence on him. That's the thing about influence, Fellas, that's why we got to be careful about how we lead out here, man. But back to it. Instead, he was taken to a railroad underpass at East 108th Street and South Dauphin Avenue and told to get on his knees. While kneeling, Sandifer was shot twice in the back of the head by the Hardaway brothers. Sandifer's body was discovered by Chicago Police Department in the early mornings of September 1st. Man, this is crazy, man. This is crazy to take a kid's life, man. A young boy, man. You a young boy. It's crazy, man. It's like Chicago. Y'all took the cake with this one. I ain't gonna even lie. You feel me? I know it's been some time, but that's taking the cake, man. Killing the kid. I understand he was in the gang and all that, so this would come with the gang life, But man, rest in peace, Lil Yummy, man, and to the young lady who lost her life due to some senseless violence. Around 400 people attended Sandifer's funeral, which was held at Youth Center Church of God in Christ on Chicago's northwest side. The Hardaway brothers were later convicted of Sandifer's murder. Derek received a 45-year sentence, and Craig received a 60-year sentence. Derek was released from prison December 2016. Craig was released from prison in December 2020. Man, this is deep, man. And they was released. Wow. Hey, rest in peace to this young brother, man, and that young sister that lost their lives, man. It was something so senseless. I mean, it might be senseless to me. I don't know the politics in Chirac. I know a little bit, but I don't know too much. But man, it's deep. Let's look a little bit off into it. Let's see. Like I said, y'all might remember this kid from that Tupac interview when he was still incarcerated and he had the the picture in the background, man, this picture always stood out to me because it's a young black brother, you feel me? And when I looked into the story and heard about it and I heard Tupac talk about it, it just was like, man, it's crazy everywhere for blacks, man, you feel me? That's the deep part about it. Like, it's hard being a black man, especially a young black man growing up in the inner city. You got so much to face, so much negativity, so much to conquer just to, you feel me? Just to make it back home at the end of the day, you feel me? And that's something you got to think about as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old boy, not even being a full grown man. You know, black people be traumatized from the get go. And people don't know, only people in the ghetto understand. Only people in the ghetto understand people in the ghetto. The people on the outside, they don't understand because they not they not used to seeing this type of things we go through. I'm pretty sure it's a struggle even with, Caucasian folks too as well. But man, it's more so in the black community where we gotta face all this violence and all this unnecessary shit. You feel me? Like, man, the Yummy story real deep though, man. I ain't gonna even lie. Like, I always used to read this story, I've been reading the story for about 10 years now. Like, go back and watch the videos and all that, man. But it just stood out to me a lot, because how young this guy was, man. Like I said, Robert Yummy Sandifer. Rest in peace to him and to the young lady that lost her life. Because it's a sad story, man. Like I said, I ain't too familiar with the politics out of Chicago, aka Chirac, but I know a little something. I actually traveled there before. It's a beautiful place, man. It's real beautiful, man. I want to go back. I ain't gonna lie. Real beautiful. Got some good food out there. 2-day pizza places be slapping, man. I ain't gonna even lie. You feel me? I ain't gonna lie. I could feel it. Like, when I got there, I could feel the gangsterism in the air. I was loving it. I'm talking about, it might sound ignorant, but where I come from is dangerous too. It's just different politics. But it felt good though, even though I know this was a dangerous place, it felt good to see somewhere else similar to where I'm at. And it had a nice downtown, the inner city I rode through, O Block, all that shit. You feel me? I stopped at Baba's, got me a steak and a sub. You feel me? A steak sub and a little drink from there, whatever that shit was. I'm a little caught up right now, my bad. But man, this story deep though, man. I ain't gonna even lie. Just know a little kid, was misled, by the gang life. Like, and I ain't going against none of that. I know it is what it is. Everywhere different, you feel me? All the demographics be different everywhere. Like I said, shit, like in LA, they on some whole other time. So I understand, man. Shout out the whole Chirac. Shout out the whole Chirac. Chicago, like I said, I'm neutral. I don't bang. I don't do none of that. I'm just here to report. Plug talk.